There are a bunch of different places that we can start with Walker Buehler. It's been like 3 weeks. He's drinking red wine instead of bourbon, which is weird. We could also talk about him being a dad. We could talk about Clayton Kershaw coming back. We could talk about pitchers and catchers reporting. Did you see Bojan Bogdanovic got traded to the Knicks? How do you think that kind of affects their spacing offensively?
I have a very, very low investment level in the NBA, personally.
How's dad life, man? Is it good?
Yeah, things are good. Baby and mom are healthy, and little Finley was 7 pounds 2 ounces, so everybody's good.
Have you done any training post baby? Like, do you feel the dad strength? Like, you're sitting 97. Is it now
Uh,
102?
no, I think it's kind of a slow burn, but we're hoping it'll get here before opening day.
So I was thinking you would just wake up and you'd be like, man, I feel the urge to like put both hands on my stomach right away in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like make deep breath and like grunt when you get out of bed, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
nothing yet.
No, the typical soreness is still there. The strength isn't there. So, um, you got to go through the struggles, I suppose, to get the dad strength.
Yeah, you're already getting soft on us, right? Going from bourbon to red wine, you get a baby, and now you're just, sipping away.
Yeah, I don't have my normal Buffalo Trace supply. So I'm working on that. I've already contacted some people to get my spring training set kind of, ready to roll. But you work with what you got. Costco's got a good little wine selection, so we went there.
I love it. You guys are the first to report, are you not? Like we're talking, this is going to air on Friday the 9th. Pitchers and catchers for the LA Dodgers report on Friday the 9th. I don't think anybody else is reporting until at least the 12th. Did you guys beat
No.
everybody?
I imagine San Diego is close behind just because
Okay.
we're playing them in Korea. So I don't know if they reported today or whatnot, but yeah, I mean it's kind of an interesting one. We're like 4 or 5 days ahead of everyone.
Are the butterflies back? Sorry to cut
For
you
what?
off. Are the butterflies back of like, oh shit, I'm going to Camelback. Like I'm ready to go play baseball. This is the pitchers and catchers report day.
I wouldn't say butterflies. Having been there kind of every day of last year is kind of probably taking the shimmer off of Camelback Ranch for me. I think any guy that's been there for any meaningful amount of time will tell you that. But no, I mean you can definitely feel there's a little different kind of energy there, and obviously the media contingent following our some of our new additions is obviously big, and I really am not being like in your face, but in a way like you feel them, right? So um, yeah, it was cool. It's a little different than usual. I think every guy that's played for a while can tell you there's like a little bit of status quo that goes into spring training, and this off season has been anything but that, and so um, yeah, it was a little different there today.
Yeah, it's not every offseason you get a fan fest with 35,000 people. Did you maybe
Right.
feel a little bit of butterflies in there, just thinking to yourself, we are kind of like the Beatles here? I mean, I'm reading stories about Otani surrounded by like 30 security guards, and you guys are going to Korea. I mean, you guys are touring right now, or you're about to.
Yeah, no, that trip is going to be pretty wild for all the guys that go. I'm not sure if I'm going to be one of them, but that kind of is what it is. So, but definitely, we got a lot of questions at FanFest about is this good for the game in terms of our spending, and obviously having dealt with the union and all that stuff. For me, this is kind of what we wanted out of the CBA, right? Is a lot of these guys to really get paid, and then you layer on top kind of Otani, who we know is pretty generational, and then I guess the expectation. I haven't seen Yamamoto throw and do all that stuff. We were kind of see each other in passing stuff today, but um, he's perceived as kind of generational from Japan. So I just don't think it happens that often that you get two players of that caliber in the same class when we're in the right place financially, and a lot lined up, I guess. But at the end of the day, like we really like our team, and that clubhouse has got a lot of talent in it.
I just have one question about the question that you were asked. That is the
Me too.
spending bad for baseball? I'm sure Jack was about to say the same thing. I just think that question is so stupid because like a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. or Ozzy Albies signs an extension and it's less than $100 million. And then you read comment sections and it's like, the teams are taking advantage of these players, right? That they're not getting paid enough. They should get paid more. And then on the flip side, you get a guy who's getting paid a ton. It's like, well, this is bad for the league. It's just like someone always has a problem with something. How is getting players paid and getting paid at market value, right? The market develops. How could that possibly be bad for the game? So when someone asks you that question, do you just kind of brush it off? Like, I'd probably be the bad guy. I'd be like, that's a dumb question. Like, of course it's not.
Well, I think the kind of going by everyone got some sort of bad rap with the Yankees in the early 2000s, right? And kind of every elite free agent was kind of perceived to be going there and whatnot. And, I guess that paradigm has kind of shifted into that perception, I guess, is really skewed towards us in some way, at least for the past few months. And, I think the in-between of that is the Bobby Witt contract, right? It's this really fair market value pre-free agency. And I think if you think back a couple of years before the latest CBA, right, like these pre-arb or pre-free agency deals never would have had a 200 on them, right? But now we've had Witt, Julio Rodriguez got a pretty close to fair market deal.
Yep.
You just see it kind of happening a little bit differently than it may have before. And I definitely think that's good for the game. I think in a lot of ways, it's even better for the game because you're getting players that are getting paid earlier, market value, to where this perception of the horrible contract or the team draining contract is seemingly becoming less and less, right? So it's kind of both sides of the market meeting in a more sensible place, a thing that, you're getting a lot of guys that are making real money when they're putting up 6, 7, 8 WAR seasons, as opposed to doing all that and hoping for a reward on the back end, which is interesting because we have the reigning Cy Young winner still a free agent, right? So it's happening in some teams, and hopefully more and more teams will start seeing it the way that these teams are spending money see it. But I don't think anyone saw the Kansas City Royals spending, what could be, what is it, 350 if everything goes great. So you're seeing some progress, and Cincinnati's gone out and signed some guys, and these smaller markets are kind of realizing that you can go dollar for dollar and look through what marketing and social media and on field, obviously, and all this stuff and the value that is created, and they're getting a little less penny pinching, I guess.
That's the other thing that I was going to bring up. It's like that question answers itself when you ask it in the context that it was asked at. Like, you were asked if it was good for the game at a fan fest that had 35,000 people at it. So it is the Field of Dreams thing. It is like, if you build it, they will come. It's like, okay, well, we have 35K at our fan fest. Like, it's clearly good for the game. The Padres, they spent a bunch of money on Xander Bogaerts, and guess what? Like, they fill up Petco for their fan fest last year. Did it go according to plan? No, but guess what? They sold out all the time before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know another business that would be comparable to it, but if the Apple iPhone wasn't marketed well, right, people wouldn't have gone and bought it in droves, right? Like, there is an element of signing players as a marketing thing and getting marketable players. And I remember when I was going through the draft out of high school, I was talking to a Red Sox front office guy, I forget, maybe it was a scouting director, something like that. And we were watching a Red Sox game, and I asked him about Dice K.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying that contract was paid off the moment we signed it. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, listen, from jersey sales to TV deals to increased fans to Japan tuning into our games instead of another game. He's like, we've already made all that money. So, that was years and years ago, right? But that idea has been around for a long time. You've seen it in the NFL when you go sign an older veteran wide receiver that sells jerseys, right? When he's really the 3 on the team. Like, this stuff is not new. It's just in our game, the schedule for guys getting paid has always been a little skewed in terms of when that marketing plus great player has always kind of it hasn't always lined up.
Yeah.
And we talk about these teams that, yeah, are small markets, right? Maybe they're, in cities that are not New York or Los Angeles. But at the end of the day, they're all billionaires. They
Yeah.
all could spend the money, right? The Orioles are on the precipice, I guess, of selling. It's not official yet, but they sold for about 1.725 billion or whatever. And the new guys coming in are private equity guys, right? A lot of these teams have private equity guys in their ownership groups, but some decide to spend hundreds of $1 millions on their team to make them better, and some don't, right?
Yep.
So if the owner of whatever team is worth $10 billion, yeah, it's in a smaller city, but they realistically could spend all the money. And there's a reason that billionaires are investing in Major League Baseball. It's because it's a good business. John Fisher of the Oakland A's would spend money on the Oakland A's. He chooses not to. So it's like, don't get mad at other owners because they're spending the money and going along with the market, right? So that's why I always have a problem with small market teams. It's like, yes, in some cases, but in most cases, it's the billionaire owner collecting his profits and not reinvesting those profits back into the team.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at, some of these, there's very few left, but at one point it was largely family-owned teams, right?
Mhm.
Teams own families for generations and whatnot. But if you look at Cincinnati Bengals, for example, right? Been owned by the same family forever. Everything falls their way. They have 2-star receivers and one of the best quarterbacks in football. Like, they pay the quarterback. Like, that wasn't happening largely in baseball for a long time. When you draft a guy, develop him, he proves he's generational, and then he has to go somewhere else, right? Like, that stuff isn't happening as frequently now. You look at Bobby Witt, he's probably the closest comp to that in terms of city, market size, blah, 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 type of player. And that guy gets paid and stays in Kansas City, right? Like, that's how this stuff is supposed to work. We've seen it with Clayton in LA. Like, we all talk about, like, oh, would you want to play for one team your whole career? Like, everyone wants that because that represents that everything went good enough at the right time in our game that somehow when you're a free agent, the team still wanted you that bad, even though they've had you in your great years. Like, there's so much that goes into that. That's why there's so much allure for guys to play for one team, is because that means that every point along the way you check the box. That's why that's got something to it, right? And so I think it's cool to see. I think there's still some stuff to be cleaned up in terms of, I think every CBA, I think people probably underestimate how important the CBA is just because it kind of sets the tone. I think a lot of people think it largely is like, instruction manual, right? And you can figure it out. It's not really like that. It dictates a lot for our game and for our teams. But I think what was interesting that you said, Peter, is like, it used to be billionaires and families, and now it's private equity guys that are looking for the most vulnerable businesses to make them money, right? And they're all flocking to owning Major League Baseball teams, right? Like, even this boom of players getting paid, like, they're still going to make the most money doing this.
Like, Jack, before your next question, like the Kansas City Royals, right? They're this small market team. I'm in Las Vegas right now where the Kansas City Chiefs have made the Super Bowl like every single year, and they paid Patrick Mahomes about $450 million. I've been to Kansas City. It's a beautiful city. Like, even to call it small market is like insulting to the people of Kansas City. But it's the owner. And he decided to spend on Bobby Witt Jr. Should probably spend on Vinny P. Should probably spend on Cole Reagans. And I'm already saying Cole Reagans. I am.
Yeah.
But that's like, it's like these owners could if they would if they could. It's like when you have your, like, those viral, Instagram posts, Twitter or whatever about a girlfriend being like, he would, or what is it? It's like, he would if he could. What is it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Walker, do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Stuff
to watch, but it's okay. You're in Vegas. We understand.
I'm in Vegas.
Just fell on your face with that one, man.
I'm going to look it up.
You kind of transitioned to the Kershaw thing, but I want to get into the Kershaw thing, and I almost want to do it as like a question about you and a question about Kershaw. Obviously, the Dodgers are bringing Clayton Kershaw back. Kershaw's going to be out through right around the All-Star break, it seems. He's going to gear up for a postseason run. We saw a report about you that, Dave Roberts said you're probably not going to be on the opening day roster. They're clearly going to like backload it to the point where you can give them a ton of good innings in October. So you and Kershaw are going to be in a similar spot at a similar time come late September, early October. Does that like get your juices flowing just as a competitor, knowing that you've got maybe the greatest left-handed arm of all time kind of synced up with you? And it's like, hey, we're going to make sure we're both 100% for this October run.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I'll be back
Yeah.
meaningfully, like a meaningful amount of time before he will. But both of us coming off of surgeries and blah blah blah, like, I think what's cool for me or fun for me is like I've never played without him, right? Like he's never not been on the team when I've been in the big leagues, and um, this is his first kind of surgery, first major health thing that hasn't been able to be resolved pretty, simply, right? And so, we've dealt with 3 or 4 years now of not knowing if he's coming back, not knowing if he's going to Texas on a 1 year, blah blah blah, and so, when he signs on a 2 year essentially because he's got a player option. It's interesting. I haven't felt like, every year I kind of feel like, oh, this is probably the last year that I'll get to play with him. And this surgery and him not being back for a full year, but him being back and having an option, like there's some optimism to it. And obviously with what we've done this offseason, like I don't think it was super difficult. I know he always has a tough time. Oh, I could be around my family more in Texas and my family wouldn't have to move to LA and whatever, but which is valid, right? Like the guy doesn't, he's done enough in the game that it doesn't have to dictate everything that he does like it does largely for everyone else. And
Sure.
But it is cool that there's a player option and there's something already out there that he could be back next year and that he obviously wanted to be a part of what we're doing this year and what we've done front office wise. And, I think, we're all excited and kind of expected him to be back, but yeah, it's a interesting scenario, but obviously a big positive to have him back.
So the term I was looking for is if he wanted to, he would. And that means
Never
like
heard
if he
that.
wanted to bring the girlfriend flowers, he would. And it's about treating your girlfriend the right
Is
way.
is this from like a Ariana Grande song or something?
Did you say
Grande,
Ariana Grande?
you say the E at the end.
Ariana Grande. Whatever.
Not where I'm from.
Yeah, not where you're from. Clayton Kershaw. The thing that, I've always, had a problem with is that like people take recency bias, if he struggles in the playoffs and like people forget. Over the last 258 innings, Arm tweeted this out. 2.37 ERA. I mean, he
Y'all must
is
have forgot.
one of the greatest pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball. And by all accounts, I mean, you've told us yourself, like arguably a better person, right?
Yeah.
So to just have him in the locker room, I like how Jack asked it, like, how high are the juices? Like the juices must be unreal because he brings way more than just what he's going to bring to the mound, right? A guy like Clayton Kershaw, especially with guys like Bobby Miller and Emmett Sheehan, you got a lot of young pitchers on the staff too. He's like invaluable. He's worth the money if he never throws an inning this season, but he probably will, right?
Right.
So I'm just asking you, I guess, when it's not your bump day, right? And it's not even Kershaw's bump day. Like, do you have any stories of Clayton Kershaw meshing with young guys? Maybe it's not you, maybe it is you. Just any stories in the dugout?
No, I mean, probably my favorite story. We went to a team dinner in 21 in San Fran in the playoffs. And I set up the dinner. My wife was setting up the wife's one, and I just decided to set up ours. It was right before game 5 or whatever. When the game that Scherzer closed. And Scherzer and Kirsch are both giving me shit the whole time, telling me that I have to pay for it because I set it up. And we've got like 25, basically everyone went. It was kind of an almost mandatory deal.
Steakhouse? What kind of cuisine are we
We
talking?
went to a sushi place in San Fran.
So that's tough. That's a lot of G's.
Yeah, and I don't want to name names because, long story short, I got food poisoning at this dinner, so I don't want to talk about it. There's been some speculation that may or may not have been intentionally food poisoned, but it is what it is.
Like a pizza in Salt Lake City thing for Jordan.
That's what it felt like at the time. Now, I still like this restaurant. That's why I'm not going to name names. I may give it one more chance. It also, I don't eat fish, so I had 18 pieces of Wagyu nigiri, which means pretty much raw meat.
Yeah.
So it was my fault. It is what it is.
18 pieces.
Yeah, it's the only thing I could eat there. So anyway, we sit down and people start ordering things, and some things are very, very expensive, including bottles of sake. I don't want to go into the details on how expensive some of those were, but we all they decided to split it between a couple of the guys that were making a ton of money. And so everybody put their credit cards in, and it comes back, and I kind of sneakily put mine in there because they were giving me so much shit. And so I get a receipt back, and Clayton whipped his head and was sitting next to me and looked at me and was like, what are you doing? I was like, you guys told me I was going to have to pay for this dinner. Like, you're an idiot. So like, he was mad, like actually kind of mad that I had put my card in there, even though he would go along with it and kind of, him and Schurz and whatever give me shit about it. But that's just kind of how he is. He like expects you to like be able to take it, and then he'll like cover you in the back, in the back end of any situation like that. And not easy to do, but a special, it takes a kind of a special dude to act that way. And yeah, it's been a cool ride. I really, I think people, you must have forgot or whatever, but some of the years early in his career, like the Dodgers weren't very good, and it was kind of only him. And you're talking the McCourt era and all this stuff that he's kind of survived through. And for us to kind of make the run that we want to make, or sign these guys and have the team that we have now, like I think without him it would be a lot different. And so I think he probably ultimately like realized that, but all of us, without like overtly saying it, I don't think it would be quite the same without him.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not on the Mount Rushmore by now, he'll probably be when everybody can play the hindsight game. Like it ties back to the Witt thing where like Kansas City had an opportunity to make sure Bobby Witt is on the Royals Mount Rushmore when it's all said and done. And it would just feel weird and I brought this up about Altuve when we were doing our second base conversation, like it would feel weird if there was that Scottie Pippen Blazers year where it's like, oh, at the end of it, it just says TEX on the baseball reference page. It's like that.
If Joey Votto goes to another team, it's just
it's like, are we sure? Like Todd Helton, so much of the appeal there is like that guy is Mr. Rocky. Like Kershaw, I'm with you. It would almost not feel poetic if you guys were to finish the job in 24 and Kershaw wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I think, you largely look at the reaction of 2020 and when we did win and whatever the context you want to give that in terms of shortened season, whatever. I think we all kind of stand by the idea that like everyone wanted to win the last game, and so whatever. But largely the reaction that you get out of that, most World Series, you see like there's two images usually. There's the last pitch, and then there's like the shortstop and the second baseman, or the big hit, or whatever. And it was, in our World Series, it was Clayton running out of the bullpen because he wanted to go in the game. Like, I think, like, whatever criticism people have of 2020 in general, like, I don't care. I couldn't give a shit about it. Like, we won and whatever. I don't like that that's the one that I don't like that it's not just like complete for Kersh. And so, I guess we all know like he's coming to the end of his career, but And I don't think it's like some weird like 25 guys trying to get it done for Clayton thing. You hear that narrative and that's never really like real. You hear that shit like coming out of locker rooms, and I don't think that's really what happens. But in terms of his legacy and whatever part that another player can have in that, like there is something to like, yeah, we want him here because we want to win a World Series with him here.
Yeah. And he could be a huge piece of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple of new guys that are going to be big pieces of the push. I'm curious, first in-person takeaway. Is Glass now bigger than you were maybe expecting him to be? Is Yamamoto smaller than you were expecting him to be? Like, what is the sweeping takeaway when it comes to any of the new guys that you're interacting with?
Yeah, Glass is a big man. It's a big
Huge.
boy.
He's huge
Yeah.
and handsome. He's pretty handsome.
I'm not going to go into that. I'll let you guys kind of
I'll
make
handle it.
up your own opinion.
I've got no
Yeah.
problem doing it too.
Yeah, I got it.
But yeah, it's a lot of hair. It's a big man. He throws the ball hard.
Really hard.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We obviously, I remember him from the World Series, and he was throwing the ball really hard. And so I'm excited to watch that. Yamamoto kind of baggy outfit today. Didn't see him in the full tight outfit, so I don't really know. He is not as tall as Glass now.
No, it might be a foot. He's what? He's 5'10", and Glass now 6'8", 6'9".
I don't think he's quite that big. I think he's like a 6'6", 5'6", 6".
I think he's lying.
Underselling him.
You think he's lying? He's like telling the baseball people, whoever like does the heights. He's like, nah, I'm probably 6'8".
Is it the Kemba Walker thing? Like Kemba might have been 5'9", and he was always listed at 6 foot.
I don't know because I don't know what he's listed at, so I'm in a precarious situation here, right? Like I don't know what he says he is. He's large.
He's 6'8".
Like we saw Bobby Miller in person at your golf tournament. That is a big man. Like comparing him to Glass, now Glass is a little bit leaner. Bobby Miller looked like he was 6'5", 300, all muscle.
300.
Yeah, he's not 300. But
Yeah,
like in my head, I would say Bobby's 6'4", and in my head, I would say Glass is 6'6". But I could be wrong on both.
Okay, so Glass now is listed at 6'8", 225. Miller at 6'5", 220. You're underestimating both of them. That's
he's
great.
bigger than 220.
What does it say I am?
Ooh.
I think it has you at 5'10", 150.
I was going to say it has 5'8" here, and then weight not listed.
That's what I do. I undersell.
Undersell and over deliver. I have
to
ask.
At time.
You're at 6'2", 185. Fair?
Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm 6'1" and a half, and I'm 203 right now.
Man,
that's beefy. So we're talking about strength. We're talking about dad strength. How's the rehab going? Because you mentioned at the beginning of the show.
I'm not rehabbing anymore, Peter.
He's done.
No, but you know what? I think of rehab as just like until you're on the mound, it's like a rehab, even though that's probably not the right term. But just going through, is it rehabilitation process?
No, you say, how's your arm?
How's your arm?
My arm's fine. I've been throwing good. I've been like 92, 94 in my bullpens. So everyone can relax. Everything will be fine.
I love it. We're going to wrap with a couple of things. Are you getting out to the Waste Management? Are you going to go sit at hostess team? No.
I played in that pro-am a couple years ago, and I had some buddies that pulled some strings that were from out here to get me in there. It took a lot of strings. I'll say that, and it was humbling. But I told them I would never go to a tournament unless I was in the pro-am. So I'm sticking to my guns. I will be watching on television. I have 3 pretty good buddies in there. So I'll be watching them on television.
Do you wish you didn't make that statement for yourself? Do you wish you could go?
For sure. Absolutely. But, I probably wasn't sober when I said thing. But sometimes you have to live and die by the sword, and that's what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
Maybe that's why you made the switch to red.
Jeff Fujimoto, if you're out there from True Spec Golf, 8 a.m. Golf, I will win. So I'm not going.
If you could choose a partner golf tournament to win $1 million, it could be any team. Who would be your golf partner?
Is it? I mean, we need more context here, buddy, because golf is. There's a lot of things. Are we talking stroked? Can I bring a pro? What kind of
No,
tournament?
the
Pro-Am?
best player who gives you the best chance to win a tournament. It's a two-man scramble.
I've got two guys, but it depends on where the course is, because I've got course familiarity as part of this as well.
You've
So you're
thought
playing
about this.
checkers.
All right, how about this?
You're playing checkers.
You're playing in a course that you haven't played and none of your partners have played. Like you're playing in the middle of Siberia or just a place that none of you guys have ever been
Who's
to.
the better cold weather golfer in that case?
So, agree. But you know what I'm saying? Like a course, just who you think is the best pure golfer that you would take on your team to win $1 million. And it's a course nobody's played yet. So there is no.
I have to know them.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you don't have to know them. Like if you genuinely think, like you've heard from others that this golfer is amazing in Major League Baseball.
I actually just want to hear the 3D chess, like play out, okay, in this location, I'm taking this guy.
Yeah.
This part of the country, I'm taking this guy.
Yeah.
I have a couple pro golfer buddies, so
Let's
I
hear
mean
it.
the choice is pretty
Major League
obvious.
Baseball. In Major League Baseball.
Oh,
Like,
no,
they're
I thought you were
basing
talking
their current-
pro-am, man.
Oh.
Our wires
No,
are pro.
I'm just talking about current Major League Baseball players. All I'm asking is
Current.
who is the
Has to be
best
current.
golfer in Major League Baseball that you would want on your team.
Has to be current.
Doesn't have to be current.
Then I take Smoltz. It's easy.
Is he that good?
Yeah.
John Smoltz?
He almost made the Champions Tour. He's never played pro golf in his life.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was that good. I mean, I knew he was good. I didn't know he was that good. But how about
He and
current?
Romo.
Current Major League players. I played with Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks is very good at golf. But you're getting into some weird things because golf is the handicapped sport, right? So there are guys that I know play with good handicaps that are really good golfers. Like I'm an 8 or 9 handicap, 10 at times, but I can make a birdie on most every hole on every course in the world. I could also make a triple. But with strokes, things get a little interesting. Largely, I've heard Aaron Hicks is about as good as there is. I know I'm missing some people. There are some guys that can really play. Well, I think there was a starter for the A's that they said was really, really, really good. He had like 2 good years. What was his name? The
Paul
Blackburn.
Paul Blackburn?
I've heard he's really good. That could be completely wrong, so don't quote me on it. But I've heard he's pretty good. I have played with Aaron Hicks. He's very, very good at golf.
Got you. Aaron Hicks is the answer.
But John Smoltz is really the answer if it doesn't have to be current.
Good for Smoltz. Just on air. He's great on air. He's great as a reliever, great as a starter. He can golf too.
Yep. Yeah, he almost made the Champions Tour.
You know who else? I think Romo can do that too. I think Tony Romo is like borderline, like entering pro golf.
He's neither a current or former Major League Baseball player. So
Yeah. I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm sorry.
yeah, that'll happen.
Last but certainly not least, Super Bowl pick. What you got?
I'm gonna take the Chiefs first half over.
How come?
I may be, moving my gambling accounts somewhere else and getting some deposits. So I think I'm putting it all on there. So it may be an interesting. We're not talking Drake level, thing, but for me, it's going to feel really big, I think. And so I'm going to ride it. I think your reasoning sounds somewhat makes some sense. So I'm going to go for it.
Come on. Did you read the write-up? It makes a ton of sense. It's a great bet. It's a great bet.
I read your write-up up until the point I have to click read more. And then I make a decision. I say, what really can he be doing in here in this read more that I need to look through? And so I largely
it better hit. It better hit. I
don't click it. I don't click the read more. So it's all about that first paragraph and a half that you got going.
I'm glad I'm just typing it out for nobody to read it. But others read it.
Some people do, but they don't know you the way that I know you. So it is what it is.
Chiefs first half team total over 10.5 plus 110. Jack, you writing?
So here's the thing. Peter and I have actually got. Peter is the one that kind of like starts the argument. I tell him, I'm like, I'm going to do this because it's fun. I like the vibe of this. And he's like, I pour my heart and soul into this. And you're picking a game based on the vibe. So I'm going to live and die by the card, Peter. So I'm with you on Sunday night.
Yeah,
think
I
it should be
largely,
good.
I do have a gripe with you, Peter. My one thing that I'm upset about is, and you people out there, this will be good for you. I largely, since we've been doing this podcast, have tried to get Peter to send me like the actual picks, like the ones that he really thinks are going to do, not the ones that he puts out. And he doesn't. He just sends me what he tweets out. And, um, I thought with the kind of access that I have being on this podcast every once in a while, I could get like the real ones.
Yeah.
But I guess these are the real ones. So that's a good thing for you, Peter, but bad for me. And I think it's a little, it's not shady enough for my liking. And I don't like that about you, but I'm happy that everyone that follows you gets your real picks.
What you
I
could do is subscribe to his Dub Club account.
Yeah, just pay me $24.99 a month.
There's a lot of things. I have a lot of phrases that are like, I would rather, and then say it. But I can't say it in public and on this podcast, but you guys can
Yeah.
I'm for the little guy.
figure it
I'm
out.
always going to stick up for the little guy. Someone reading my picks, he gets it the same as you. Money is green. We're going to win.
Interesting.
And we're all going to win together, Walker. We're all going to win together.
Interesting. Okay.
You want to win more?
No, I just want the
Little
picks, buddy.
All right, Walker, always a blast. And we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy dad life, enjoy spring training, and I think we'll talk to you in 2 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
Easy
Talk
peasy.
soon.
All righty.